You are so much more than your mind and your brain and whatever its story it's telling you. It has a story today, and it's gonna have a different story tomorrow, and it's gonna have a different story a week from now. So realizing the temporary nature of the mind, and that you are so much more than that, and coming from that place, and that's how we can bring in that compassion of like, oh yeah, there's that reaction again.
We are Gold Ivy.
Our mission is to empower you to own and unleash your truth.
Stories of resiliency are gold, and ivy grows in hard places.
Those hard places are what creates space for light to shine through.
You decide what works for your daily life and how to transform our lessons into your gold.
This is Ivy Unleashed,
a Gold Ivy production.
If you're doing all the right things, your life looks great on paper, but underneath it all, your nervous system feels like it's constantly running on high alert, today's episode is for you. We are diving into what it truly means to move from survival to safety and how to finally live beyond the chronic stress response.
Joining us is Brea Segger. Brea is a master of somatic emotional integration, facilitator, and speaker with over 20 years of experience guiding people through life's biggest transitions. Her work sits right at the intersection of embodiment and inner alignment, helping us stop searching outside of ourselves for validation and learn to listen within. Her wisdom is deeply rooted in her own lived experience navigating depression, recovery, corporate life, and motherhood.
Today, we're unpacking why we get stuck looping on old stories, the exhausting trap of trying to control everything around us, and how to build unshakable self-trust. We are so excited for you to hear this beautiful episode, but first, a word from our sponsors.
If you've listened to the podcast for a while, you know I used to be the biggest skeptic about supplements. I thought, I can definitely get everything I need from food. But then I started to realize that high quality, clean supplements weren't about replacing a healthy diet. They were about optimizing my health in a way I never thought possible. For instance, I discovered what so many women eventually do. I was deficient in magnesium. Now that it's part of my routine, I'm sleeping better and I feel absolutely amazing. It made me realize that quality matters more than anything.
When it comes to taking supplements, ingredient integrity is a must for us both, and that's why we trust Smidge. Smidge offers a small line of foundational supplements, core nutrients, including 100% whole food vitamins, and digestive support for people who prioritize real food, but know even the best diets have gaps. They obsess over ingredient integrity, crafting minimal, clean products with zero additives and rich nutrients meticulously sourced from around the world. We both love Smidge's magnesium, but with my chronic gut health issues, Smidge's digestive support is my tried and true. I use their digestive enzymes every single day before meals, and it has been a game changer in post-meal bloat, fatigue, and overall digestion for me. If you have any digestive issues, their enzymes, including the original and HCl plus enzymes, are a must try.
Smidge just dropped some incredible whole food supplements that we've been loving. First up, their Kakadu Plum. Most vitamin C supplements are just mass-produced synthetic chemicals, but this is the real deal from Australia. It's pure, whole food vitamin C that your body actually knows how to use for glowing skin and a rock-solid immune system.
I'm also obsessed with their Australian emu oil. You won't find this at a typical health store. It's the best source of vitamin K2, MK4, which is a total game changer for women's bone and heart health. While plant-based K2 is hard for your body to process, Smidge's emu oil is already pre-converted, so your body absorbs it instantly.
So, if you want a brand that is truly backed by research, derived from sustainable principles, and only wants to provide you with the freshest, highest quality nutrients, it's Smidge.
Head over to getsmidge.com to check out their magnesium, emu oil, Kakadu Plum, and their fantastic digestive enzymes. And don't forget to use our code GOLDIVY10 at checkout for 10% off.
And now to this episode of the Ivy Unleashed podcast. Welcome back to Ivy Unleashed. Today is here. It's a beautiful Monday in the summer. And our guest is calling in from Costa Rica. Today we have Brea Segger here. Welcome to Ivy Unleashed.
Thank you so much for having me. It's so nice to be with you both.
Yeah, and I think everybody listening is going to feel really calm after this episode.
I'm excited.
From going through Brea's content, I'm like, she is so zen. I need some of that. Brooke needs some of that. And so we're so excited to have someone here that is a Let me read this right. Master of Somatic Emotional Integration, a facilitator and podcaster. And somatic emotional integration, I cannot wait to get into what that means. And I know I need it. I just know I need it. But before we do that, we are loving kind of jumping in and asking our guests if you could give some instant impact, kind of the message, your take home message for our listeners today. What would it be?
What I find most of us are going through is almost what you just described. We are in a state of overwhelm all the time, even when we feel okay. Like we're okay, we're showing up, we're doing our work, we're being parents, but our whole system, if we want to call that our nervous system, our brain, however we want to use those words, are going on overdrive. We have 1,000 thoughts in our heads. We're trying to figure out, we're holding space. Is she okay? Are they okay? Do I need to be better here? I effed that up. I messed that up even more. And this is like how we're living. And then we're like, hi, how are you doing? I'm great. How are you? And so there's a lot going on in our systems right now. And this is compiled, of course, with social media, work demands, family demands, friend demands. And there is the ability to come from a place of okay and ease. And first, it's just knowing that that is even within us. And it's not a force of trying to get there. Like, this is one of my things I tell people. You can't really meditate yourself into that space. You can meditate and slow down and breathe. These are all amazing things to do, but it's developing a different relationship from ourselves and knowing it's okay to have a busy mind and it's okay to not be okay. And there's still an okayness underneath all of that. And that's the part that it has no words, right? Like when we feel okay and good, we're not like articulating that. We're just like, there's something in me that feels strong, safe, secure. Like I'm good no matter what happens. But it's very hard to be like, what is that? Or to grasp that. And so my work is based around guiding people into that space, but knowing we're not going to reach a destination and we're not going to ever have words and we're not going to be able to go like, I've reached enlightenment and I'm like so cured and fixed and everything's perfect. That's not reality. That's not human life. That's not what it's going to be like. But can you be okay when things are absolutely not okay?
Yeah. Ooh, that's beautiful.
Why this work for you?
So growing up, like most people have the similar experiences, I didn't feel okay. I got good grades. I had some nice friends, but I was always feeling like I was not okay. I was in fear. I was scared. I was trying to figure out what was going on in my surroundings. And that childhood led me to be like living a life that didn't feel like mine. So I got a couple of degrees. I worked. I did merger and acquisition work. I ended up building a large business. Like I did the things that so many people do. I got married, had kids. But all of that time and, until maybe the last 10, 15 years of my life or so, I really had this sense of like, okay, I'm in this big event or I'm emotionally overloaded or a boyfriend just broke up with me. I'm drinking way too much. I'm like smoking too much weed, whatever. Like my life doesn't feel good. And this like, I think a lot of people will know what I mean. I'm like, this can't be my life. And it's not like I wasn't exactly accepting it in that moment. It was like, I know this isn't how I'm meant to live. And I don't know what I'm supposed to do. And that took me down. This was in my early 20s. I think I started working with a therapist and I just started like really deep diving into spirituality and what that meant for me in the self-help world. And I really realized like, hey, there's got to be a different way to do life than this, like than the doing part and like the saying I'm great and I'm making money or I'm running this business or isn't my life amazing when I feel miserable inside. And so that took me on a long and windy path of many, many ups and downs to really find that stability in myself and from a natural place where I don't have to try to find that stability. That's the thing. We're always trying and we're like, I'm going to try to be okay. I'm going to try to be stable. I'm going to try to be calm. I'm going to get back into this tailspin of trying all the time.
So was it a moment for you where it all kind of clicked and you're like, oh, this is how I regulate myself? Or has this been a journey of like, it's not that, let me try this. What does that kind of look like to get to this place where it feels easy to get back to that place of peace?
It was a long journey of little bits for me because I'm definitely one of those people that needs to go through it and try everything out and see like, what is that? And a lot of the stuff I was doing, quote unquote, the retreats I was going to, the workshops I was going to. I'd get little bits out of them, but I was just like, I don't know, this seems forced. Why, this is more trying. They've given me a bunch of homework to go home, and now I have all these other exercises I'm supposed to add on to my life. So it was like, I was just like compiling the doing, which wasn't sitting with me very well. And I started coming into probably simultaneously dropping into what felt like little piece of okayness within me. I was like, oh, this is curious. What is this about? I hadn't known that. And I had some mentors along the way that it wasn't anything they said or did. It's probably similar in a way to how I work now, but it was just their presence felt calm and okay, and they weren't trying. And they weren't trying to get me somewhere either. They were just letting me be me. And that really resonated with me. I was like, I need to know more about that. I need to figure that out. And of course, there was the same thing I'm saying to you now. They couldn't really articulate it in the same way I can't really articulate it. And yet we kind of all know what we're talking about, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. And the word in your title, Master of Somatic Emotional Integration, obviously I want to get into what that means and how this works and how you help people. But I think something missing a lot is the integration. You know, a lot of people that listen to this podcast, and Brooke and I, we're taking in all the books, we're reading and listening to all the podcasts, and it's like, ooh, ooh, ooh. But then you don't integrate it. So it's like you're almost in the same loop of this thing that you're trying to fix or work on or breakthrough or whatever it is. And I have a feeling what you do might help with that breakthrough. And so I would love to hear what your work is and kind of what the integration piece is to help people.
Well, a part of how I work with people. So for the most part, yes, some people will just see me for a session, whether that's on Zoom or that's in person. But a lot of the work is the in-between moments. And I actually have people voice message me in life. So they're coming into this place of like this okayness in session. They're getting to know what that is for them, because my okayness isn't the same as your okayness or your okayness, right? Like that spaciousness within ourselves is very unique to us. This is that connection to God, to source, to, whatever our words are, nature, everything. And so getting to know that place without it being in the mind and being like, it looks like this and this, and it's supposed to feel like this and this, is very unique for each person. And so in between is the voice messaging. It's the like reflections of day-to-day life, but it's getting to know and have this awareness around just what's happening inside of us at any given moment in time. Not like from the brain, like, oh, now I'm this, now I'm that, and should be like this. It's just looking at it like, oh, yeah, that was interesting. And you guys have both probably noticed, once you bring an awareness to something, like let's just say we're holding a lot of resentment inside of ourselves. And suddenly you're like, okay, I'm aware now for the first time in my life that I had resentment, that I thought I did not have. I thought everyone else had resentment. And then you're just like, you start noticing where we're coming from that in life, as we're driving in the car and we're pissed off at somebody, in partnership, to our kids, to the person that didn't see us and get out of the way. Like resentment starts to come up everywhere. And instead of making it wrong, we're like, oh, okay, that is in me. Now it's not hiding. When it's not hiding inside of ourselves, when it's not in those shadows anymore, it just starts to leave. We don't have to sit there and meditate over resentment or get to know resentment. We're watching it in our lives. So this doesn't take extra time. It just takes a bit of a shift in perception and awareness to see it. And then resentment doesn't become a big deal. Our mind doesn't go, oh my God, resentment. There's no way I have resentment. I can't talk about that. And this goes for shame or guilt or anger or like jealousy, all those things we don't want to admit that we all have.
What's the difference between that and not getting stuck in a loop, in a pattern, and kind of repeating that negative pattern, whether it's a negative relationship or self-loathing or that internal self-talk that's terrible, the inner critic, because you can become aware of it. Like, I'm aware I have an inner critic, but how do I just let it go and not keep getting stuck on that pattern?
Yeah. So first, that compassion. We always seem to think that we're the only ones looping over the same thing. Like, I can't tell you how many people I work with that are like, I'm still replaying the event of my ex-boyfriend, or like, I'm like wishing he would come back into my life, or this thing of childhood trauma, like whatever the thing, or it could be a little thing like, oh my God, this like awful thing I said at work, and now everybody knows this something about me that I wish they didn't know. We all have this looping effect in our mind. And so first is just compassion. Like, you're not different or weird, and you don't have it harder or easier than anyone else. It's just like, this is what our brains are wired to do, because as we all know, they're wired to keep us safe. And this goes back how many thousands of years? We don't really know, but it's on the lookout. It's like, where can I go to keep you safe? And it's going to repeat and repeat the same thing to make sure it's safe, right? And so it's like, this is where that's coming from. And then we see it. And then when we're like allowing that more and more, we don't try to get out of the loop. Now, I like to find a balance here where it's sort of like, am I like, let's say a boyfriend or a partner breaks up with us and we go into a tailspin in grief, or someone close to us dies. And it's like allowing ourselves to be in that process and be in victim mode, and my life sucks, and like, why did this happen to me? Because that's real, right? Like, again, we're not trying to shy away from like occasionally being the victim, being mad as hell, being in why, being depressed. And then it's sort of finding that balance of like, what is the right time where I'm just looping into my own misery and I'm creating a life of misery for myself. And this is where only you know what's right for you in that case. Is that days? Is that weeks? Is that months? And that's really what it is. And I would argue too, if we let ourselves go down into that world for months, if we really want to get out of it, some of this just comes to like our own inner decision. Do you want to stay in this or not? Soon as you choose to get out of it, the world opens up, whether that is a podcast or a book or a friend or whatever that is. When we choose, when we're done with that, it will come into our life in some way, something, right? I don't know what that something will be for each person, whatever that is, but this is how our lives change. And this is why we see some people staying in the old stuck patterns that they've been in, because there's not a desire there to get out of it. And there's some people in the world that are moving through so much because there's a desire to move through that and to not live like that. And so from a very young age, I was like, I don't want to live like this. I don't want to do that. I didn't know what it was going to look like. I had no idea where that was going. But this is available to everybody. This has nothing to do with like money or like where you live. It has to do with an inner desire to not be in those same loops forever.
Yeah, I think it's tough when you're a person that is trying to have awareness, and then you're around other people that you know that have none. They have no self-awareness. They have no idea they're miserable to be around constantly, right? And so you can't, like, they have to create their own awareness, right? Like, you can't tell them, because they think that they're a victim of everybody else, right? Because they're full of resentment or trying to control or whatever, and they just think their way is their way, right? So how do you, do they have to come to you? Does the person have to recognize it themselves? Or is it something in a relationship you think you can create awareness around that could actually make a long-term change?
So there's a couple things there. So one is, why do we think we need to change the other person, right? Like, we have this sort of, it's like we don't respect somebody else's life. If they are in that loop of misery, it hurts, especially when it's family or close friends. Like, it hurts. We're like, oh my God, I wish you didn't have to feel like this. At the same time, this has to be their choice. So can we say something? I mean, depending on the relationship, can we say something to them? This is my perception of it. This is what I feel. Like, of course, absolutely. However, we have to give them that autonomy. Their life is not our life, and we are not responsible for changing them. And so, yeah, they do need to come into it their own, or else it's being forced upon them outward. So if we're like, hey, you have to read this book, and you're like, you make them listen or read the book, and it won't change anything. It just won't. If that readiness is not there, they won't hear the words as they're intended. They will their brain will like completely change around. I mean, I've tried to change lots of people in my lives in the past, and they have a completely different understanding of whatever the thing is I just said or had them read. And I'm like, oh yeah, this doesn't work like that. Yeah. Like, that's my fault for trying to change you and to think that I can do that. And why am I trying to control this situation? It's your life.
Mm-hmm. And I think control is something that, especially a lot of women, we're so emotionally intelligent and we're thinking about feelings and we want things to go a certain way. We're in charge of a lot of things. And I want to talk a little bit about control and how we try to manipulate situations or feelings or others. Like what I just said, like, That's their life. Why are we trying to change them? Why don't we just figure out how we can cope with a difficult person a little bit better on our own? And that's, I think therapy is great for that. And, having a coach is great for that, but not everybody uses therapy or a coach. And so I want to talk a little bit about like how you've seen your clients or people in your life, or maybe even yourself, understand that they need to try to control less, and like how we do that and how we can, one, create awareness around how we're trying to control people, and how we kind of let go of that and let people have their journeys. Are you tired of the endless battle with cravings? Do you dream of managing your appetite without the hassle, the side effects, or the hefty price tag?
Then it's time to meet Dr. Stephanie. She's not just a doctor of pharmacy. She's a certified diabetes educator and a leading hormone expert. She listened to your struggles and formulated a gentle, natural solution, GLP Wonder.
GLP Wonder is a revolutionary supplement designed for an easier path to appetite control and hunger management. How? It works by combining powerful natural ingredients like eriocitrin and green tea extract to naturally support your body's own GLP-1 levels. This signals fullness to your brain, curbs those persistent cravings, and even helps fight insulin spikes, that stubborn, fat-storing hormone.
The result? Reduced hunger, better appetite control, and a more natural way to stay on track with your diet and goals. It's effective, it's safe, and it's affordable. Just 1 capsule per day for powerful results.
GLP Wonder is now easier than ever to find. Look for Dr. Stephanie's GLP Wonder at Walgreens, CVS, and Walmart. And we are thrilled to announce that you can now find it in Target stores nationwide.
Stop waiting and start winning the fight against cravings today. Find your nearest store, or to learn more and shop the full Dr. Stephanie's collection, visit drstephanies.com. And for a limited time, use code GOLDIVY30 for 30% off all Dr. Stephanie products at drstephanies.com.
And now back to the show.
Well, we know control doesn't work, and yet it is still our default, especially for women in relationships. And I don't think we always label that as control, because we would say, but I'm responsible for this, and I need to do this, and I need to do that, and I need to make sure. And so we don't ever say like we're controlling. But women, we are very famous for controlling relationships, and there's a fear in us. There's like this unsafety situation that we're feeling deep in our core, that the man doesn't have it, right? Like that he can't take care of it. And then of course, so he doesn't. and then we just get ourselves into the cycle. So I think a lot of people know what that is like. And we do this with our children too, right? If we are very controlling to our children, they will grow up and they will generally have a huge backlash against us or the environment around them, or at their teachers or at their friends. And so controlling doesn't really work. And yet it's a thing that we default to unconsciously to keep ourselves safe. So I think it's just that recognition, like we all have this in us, like, and it doesn't come from a bad place. We're not assholes because we're trying to control. We're trying to keep ourselves safe, and we're trying to keep our environment and our surroundings safe, especially as women, and especially where we're in kind of this interesting time right now where, men are sort of relearning what this is. I think this is something that we haven't seen a lot in the last few generations. What is that like for a woman to really feel safe? What is it like to engage in a deep emotionally way and still be safe and in my sovereignty and in my masculinity, And so there's a lot around that where we're all sort of relearning how to relate to each other. So like just knowing this is hard. You can read all the books in the world. This is hard, tricky stuff right now. And we both have to, man, women, whatever, friend groups, to have that same desire really to make it work, that we're kind of interested in the other person's experience. We're interested in why they're trying to control. We're interested in why they're pushing away. And we just have this curiosity around it that maybe we weren't really willing to look at before.
Mm-hmm. How does control and the need for control affect our nervous system and being in that fight or flight and feeling out of control?
Yeah, I think there's a very physical aspect to it. When our nervous system is in that fight or flight all of the time, it is ready. it's on edge. And I think this is why so many people are exhausted. We don't realize that we're holding on to so much. It kind of goes back to what I said at the beginning of our conversation. Like, we are ready and holding all the time, even if I just look like I'm having a tea and I'm reading my book. Like, that is how wired our system is now. That idea of true relaxation, true connection, a true beingness is almost unheard of. Like, really, really, like, this is, and like, I work with so many people that are doing the things and they don't feel calm, okay, a steadiness inside. They feel alert, ready to fight, essentially. Not a physical fight, but they're ready to go. They're ready to engage, or they're like stressed about something. And so we're really holding so much in our systems right now.
How do you help that person? Like, when they come to you and they're like, I know I'm on edge. I know I'm in fight or flight all the time. Like, where do you start with them?
Getting them to just know that and feel that okayness at the same time. So once a person can feel this okayness, and what I do is I have people there, if it's on Zoom, they're laying down on their bed or their couch, or if they're seeing me in my office, they're laying on the couch, I have them put a sleeping mask on. We're signaling to the body that it's okay to just like go inwards and reflect inwards for a moment. And then we can see all the patterns. Oh, my brain's doing this. Oh my gosh, it doesn't even want to be here. It's so stressed about this. It's not calming down. Like, yeah, that's happening. And then I guide them into feeling that okayness too. So now both can exist simultaneous. And over time, that okayness becomes more of the default, and what's going on the outside gets a little bit quieter. But we don't make it wrong. Like, we don't want to make this human experience that we're having wrong either. That's just going to ramp it up. It's like when we tell ourselves, oh, I'm not going to think about that anymore. What happens? It comes in even stronger. It's like, let me tell you all the ways that you're going to think about it. So we don't want to make that the loops wrong. We just want to get to know ourselves in a different way.
Yeah. Kind of like allowing yourself the space to just be. And whatever comes up, comes up. But over time, the more you do it, the more your body and your brain recognize, like, it's okay for me to rest. It's okay for me to just be. And then you start noticing some of those benefits of, oh, I'm not crabby all the time, or I'm not exhausted. Maybe there is something to this rest and this staying off social media, putting on an eye mask, being horizontal for 10 minutes.
And the curiosity with it. Because I think what I keep hearing you say is like, it all feels like curiosity. You're allowing yourself to do that, and then you're being curious about what's coming up and you're exploring it. Or when you're trying not to control things with your partner in your relationship, it's like not just trying to control it, like you're asking them questions and you're curious about why you're trying to control it, right? I feel like curiosity is kind of blended in everything that you're saying, and you can't be curious if you don't pause. Horizontal or not, like figure out what's happening inside you. And so is that a huge part of kind of what you have people do, is like get curious with themselves?
Yeah, because curiosity is sort of the opposite of assumptions. And if we think about many of our fights, whether that's friends, families, partners, generally we assume something and they assume something too, right? And this is the miscommunication. And so if we take a step back from assumption and assuming, oh, they were trying to hurt us, or they just ignored us, or they were thinking this, or like whatever, then we're curious. So what was going on there? And so curiosity is really interwoven in that. And that goes the same thing. Like, if, one of the people don't need me to do this. Yes, there's something in me that holds safety, and my nervous system, you could say, is like how we're all connected. So it's consciously talking to yours. So there's like this sense of like, when we're around people that we feel safe with, we can all think of like a good friend, right? And we're around them, and suddenly our whole system's like, yes. And you can just feel that sense around special, different people in our life. However, you don't need to have that person with you. If you get to lay down and you get to exactly say what you were just saying, and you get to know this within yourself, yes, it might take more time because you don't have that exterior energetic holding, but it is still available in yourself. And you have to be curious. Like, can I just allow myself to be here for 10 or 20 minutes? And this is what I really suggest to everybody that I work with. Start with 5, get up to 20. You're not meditating. This isn't about trying to shut your brain off. You're just becoming aware of really what's happening inside of your body without social media, without looking at your phone, honestly, without even listening to music. You don't need silence either. You could have noises in the background. It's not that, you're just spending that time getting to know yourself in a slightly different way, or lay out under a tree or on the grass. I mean, it's a beautiful time of year, being out in nature, but it's the same thing. It's not distracting with other, you know, whatever's happening.
Yeah.
And for most of us, it's social media.
I'm
right?
curious how you use nature, because I know you said something about a farm earlier, and you've hinted at nature a few different ways. How do you use nature to kind of calm your nervous system?
So that was my tool when I was a kid. So when I was not feeling safe in my family environment, there was a forest behind me. I would go into the forest and I would climb the trees. And so that was where I felt safe. I knew that, and that relationship day after day after day became very, very strong and fundamental to me. And I couldn't really articulate it at the time, but we really start to recognize, like, it sounds sort of, everyone says this now, we are not disconnected from nature, we're a part of nature, but like that actually couldn't be more true. We've just forgotten that. Mm-hmm. And we really are. And so if you think about it this way, like a tree or a forest is continuously evolving, it's changing, it's growing, but it's not coming from the mind. It's not like there's not a brain there going like, now we need to do this, now this leaf needs to grow, now this tree needs to die. It doesn't work like that. And this is the same that's available in us. We just get stuck up in our mind and we don't recognize that connection to source, to nature within us actually can take care of everything. Maybe not how our mind thinks it should be. Again, our mind goes, but it's supposed to look like this, and it's supposed to have a house, and it's supposed to have 2 kids and a really long, great marriage, right? Maybe not how the mind thinks of it, but how this is that connection to nature, how the forest wants it, how the earth wants it, how God wants that to be expressed through us. And so that's what we're getting to know, is that different way. And so for me, nature was just fundamental in that. Yes, I have a permaculture regenerative farm on Vancouver Island, and my goats and my chickens, and that is such a place of deep rest for me. Also a lot of work. Anyone that has any farm or even has a vegetable garden, it's a lot of work. But there's still something so therapeutic about hands in the dirt and planting seeds and watching them sprout. And it really, for me at least, it just has this deep memory of like where I come from and who I really am at that level. And I don't have to mind what's going on in the brain that's saying it's this or it's that, or it should be like this. It's just like, this is growing. That carrot is growing. The tomato is growing. That's it. And I think just finding that simplicity in that is really important.
Yeah, I think it comes back to trust too. When you're in your head so much, it's like, how do I get out of my head into my body, whether that's in nature, or everyone has that something that gets them into kind of the flow state. And I think there's a level of trust that comes with that. So how do you guide people to get out of that overthinking mind and really develop self-trust, to trust that, nature, it isn't controlled by your mind, and it does just keep blooming, and you will be okay. You don't have to think and control your way into success or whatever it is you want in life.
Yeah. So once somebody wants to have that sort of connection and they have a desire to trust themselves, and a lot of my workshops and retreats are based around that self-trust. So I love that word. It gets a little overused, of course, but it's also fundamentally so true. We have to trust that voice that doesn't have a voice, right? Like people are like, oh, but it's supposed to tell me what to do. Again, we've just gone back into the brain. As soon as this is what it's supposed to do, it's different. So think about, maybe you both experienced this when you created this podcast. It's like it just birthed out of you. Like it just happened. Yes, your brain had to do the steps, right? The strategic things to make it happen, and all these other creations that you've both done in your life. But it comes from this different place versus if you probably think of other things in your life where it was forced, like our first job, we have to go get it because we have to make money, because we have to buy a car and pay for gas, right? Like these are different ways of expressing in the world. And so having that trust that we can follow this sort of place of no words within us, but this really deep sense of this is how I'm supposed to show up in the world, in my relationships, in work, in my creative pursuits, in just life. This tells me I'm due to go walk in the forest and I need to go get away and spend some time on my own, right? It's like listening to that and knowing that it's not a big booming voice that tells us, now you must do this and now you must do that. And I think people get really hung up where they think it's supposed to be such a clear message, but it's just following those little subtle knowings that come up in our life every day. So getting to trust those, again, if we're not spending time alone without distraction, we don't get to trust ourselves in that way. Or I should say, maybe we can, but I haven't yet met anyone that was able to truly get to know that place. Once you get to know that place, yes, you can have like, it's not quite so hard. But if we're always busy, we're always doing, our brain is always looping somewhere, then we're probably not going to be able to feel or hear that essence and just to follow it. So it takes a lot of slowing down, and it means like making that decision. Hey, do I want to get to know this and live from that place? Or do I want to just keep doing what I'm doing? And a lot of people, that's the choice. They don't even think of it as a choice. They're just going to stay in their own patterns.
I like to think about too, where am I when I get my best ideas? A lot of times a lot of guests have said like in the shower, because they can't be on their phone in the shower. I hope you're not on your phone in the shower. But yeah, where am I and what am I doing when I've had my best, most creative ideas, or my most, like the ideas that have really brought me to a place of happiness, where I was when I thought of starting the podcast was, it's like 4 or 5 in the morning and I'm sitting alone and I am like by my fireplace and I'm reading a book, and you know what I mean? And so I think about that, where it's like, that's such sacred time where my kids aren't around. I'm not looking at my phone. And so I just encourage anybody listening to think about, where have you been when you've had your best ideas? Were you journaling? Were you sitting? Was it nighttime? Was it morning time? Like, were you on a walk? I think we just don't even think about how to get there, and we don't follow through with doing it and being by yourself. It's rare.
Exactly. Absolutely. And I mean, why in a shower? Why do we love showers? It's actually when the water is even hitting our back, there's a physical aspect to that. It's calming down the nervous system. There's actual science on that, right? So there's something to being in the shower. It's also because we're not on our device. And walking, yes, without music or with soft music that we're not really paying attention to, but it's not listening to a podcast. Like when I go to the gym, I put in my headphones and I listen to hard music because I'm there to like be there in that, like that. That's different than me exercising or like going for a gentle walk or climbing up a mountain. I love to go and to do really large hikes in the mountains for multi-days generally, because I find over time that is a true disconnection, as well as having an energetic recharge just from being in nature and breathing in that incredible oxygen and being surrounded by, something that I think we're meant to be in a lot more than we are.
Yeah. And if you follow Brea, you'll see that she hikes in these mountains and she makes content in the mountains. So it's beautiful, where you're clearly having something you feel like you need to share, and you're in such a beautiful environment, which, I mean, you also live in Costa Rica and Canada, which are very beautiful places. But I know that people are going to want more from you, because this is just kind of, the basics of what you do, but it just goes so much deeper, and you give such great examples for people to apply this to their lives. And so could you tell everybody how they can find you and follow you, and if they want to work with you, how they would do that?
Yeah, absolutely. So breasegger.com, that would be the starting place. There's retreats that I have happening in the fall. People can take part in those. One-to-one sessions are generally mostly booked, but there's sometimes some spaces left for those. And my Instagram at Brea Segger. I have a podcast called Beneath the Story that's coming out within the next few weeks, so people can follow along there. So there'll be more things coming, but I would say just starting on the website, signing up for the newsletter is a great place to start.
Awesome. It's exciting. Congratulations about the podcast.
Thank
So
you.
we leave our listeners with 3 pieces of gold. Could be takeaway steps, could be big ideas that you just want to leave our listeners with. So what would you say your 3 gold stars are today?
Taking time to yourself without distraction, 5-10 minutes, however you can figure that out, a day, and let that become more if that feels good, and let it where that actually feels not good in the agitation. See if you can be not hard on yourself. Yeah, it's going to be agitating when you're not scrolling on your phone. It's going to, you're going to come up and face things that you don't feel comfortable with. And like, can you be okay with that too? And I think that's it. We have to be able to be with the hard stuff and start to get okay with being with the hard stuff and realize that that doesn't define you. That is your brain. Your brain's interpreting your nervous system and it's going, oh, this is hard. This is, this is anger. And also there's something in you that is so okay and it doesn't matter what's happening in the mind. So that's the big thing. Connecting with nature is so helpful. So that's the second part around that. But realizing that you are that. Can you just see nature evolve, whether that's a tree in your backyard or in a cityscape, it doesn't matter. See what it's doing. There's no brain involved. It's just being what it is. And I think if we start looking and reconnecting with nature that way and realize that's available in us, we're human, so we get to do these cool creative pursuits. But what if we even did those from a place of ease like nature does it? The tree is just being the tree. The mountain is just being the mountain. So it's seeing that in our environment too. And then, the third thing, it's the listening to those little niggles, those things that you mentioned coming up in those quiet moments. Maybe there's some of those we can follow, right? And, when I am in nature, as you said, like I will bring my phone with me. It's not that I'm videoing everything. I said, suddenly I'll leave a voice note for myself to come back to this later because your brain is just allowed to go through different things, get sloughing off literally the stuff it doesn't need. And then that opens up essentially the space for the stuff that's more true to you to come out. And that, if you're able to capture that on a voice note, can be really helpful, or a journal or whatever that might be. But it's like just allowing yourself to be in more of a flowing state. And I know for ourselves, like I know some people are listening and they're so busy and that's so hard. But maybe that's just like driving the car can be really helpful and beneficial too. And maybe the music is just like not something that fully takes you away. A little bit calmer, a little bit, okay, I'm just letting myself be. And those can be beautiful moments too. Or, you're riding on the bus or the train or something like that. So finding those moments during the day where you're not scrolling and you're not distracting with big sounds or big outward expressions, essentially.
That's really helpful because I know a lot of listeners are moms and we're in the car a lot. And I'm like, how can I get paid to be driving right now? Because, you take your kid, obviously you're talking to your kid on the way to it, but then, 20 minutes back, you're by yourself. So that is a great time to just turn it all off and pray or think, be. I love that. That's a great idea. All of them are great. Okay, last two segments. Next one is Unleashing Ivy. These are things we're just curious about. And I'm curious about you and, you're a businesswoman now. You've had a lot of different ways you've been in business, but thinking about the control factor and timing, right? You want a successful life, or you want your farm to look a certain way, or you want a certain amount of clients or retreats or whatever. How do you kind of let go of control of timing of how things happen or how quickly you get success, things like that? Like, how do you talk to yourself through that and kind of surrender to the timeline?
Good question.
Yeah. So I used to control everything. And most of you will know that actually that works to a certain extent. It works in the way that we want it to work. So say when I was like building a large business, I was working 12, 14 hours a day. I'm grinding away. We have deadlines. I'm getting the team. We're making this happen. We're executing, and it worked. There was a huge price to pay. I was diagnosed with Hashimoto's. I would get some major concussions. My whole entire health took a toll. So eventually I realized, what if there was another way to create and do things that doesn't come from that space? And so I think too, and I think your listeners will understand this because it could be like sound a little esoteric, but it's like we're feeling this difference in the world now, where that old way of doing things, of controlling, we're kind of becoming repulsed by that. We don't really want that. We don't want to listen to podcasts that are talking about that. We don't want to read books about that. We're not really like, all these people like, do, go. We're like, I don't know. Like, that's not really resonating anymore. A lot of us are burnt out. We are dealing with illnesses. We just don't want to go there anymore. So what is this other way? And getting used to surrendering into that timing, which is again, from nature. Nature doesn't go, today is May 15th and I need to have the leaves come out on my tree. It's not, it doesn't do that, right? It's like this feels right from you are so, so much more than your mind and your brain and whatever story it's telling you. It has a story today and it's gonna have a different story tomorrow and it's gonna have a different story a week from now. So realizing the temporary nature of the mind and that you are so much more than that and coming from that place. And that's how we can bring in that compassion of like, oh yeah, there's that reaction again.
Oh, mic drop. That was so good.
Ooh, I love it. This is so beautiful. Okay. Last question, Brea. If you could go back to younger Brea and tell her something, what age would you go back to? And what would you tell her?
It's almost similar to what I just said, but it was like those hard things became my huge portals, my big doors that I opened in life. And those little knowings that I had, even as a kid at like 8, 9, 10, where I'm like, in a tree, just trying to like escape my life into the tree. And I'm like, tree, just take me, like be with, became such deep learnings and foundations. And I think this is true for everybody too, right? Or it certainly was for me, is whatever those experiences are, if we could go back and be with those again and see them in a different way and where those brought us, have that compassion and that understanding. And so I had a deep sense of listening emotionally to myself when I was younger. I messed that up in all sorts of ways, but that was there and that has become foundational to my work now. So a real sense of telling younger versions of myself, like, you're okay, and know that these things that are hard and these natural connections and sort of gifts you have now, they're there, and just like allow yourself to explore those more. Instead, I ignored those for a couple decades and then came back to them.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
So good. Oh, your voice, your energy, it is calming. It is healing. So thank you for taking time with us today, for doing the work you do. I'm so excited for our audience to get a piece of you and to continue listening to you on your podcast. Thank you so much for being here with us today. We leave our listeners with a piece of gold, a quote that speaks to you. Would you please send us off with your quote today, Brea?
Well, I think people have heard this a lot, and I'm just, I don't have one that off the top of my head, but I want people to just know they're not broken. They can't not be fixed. They don't have to live. If they don't like their life right now, they don't have to stay like that. And I don't mean because you're going to win the lottery and $1 million is going to drop on your doorstep tomorrow. I mean, because if you choose something different, that you want something different, doors will open up. Follow those doors and know that you could either say we're all messed up inside or we're all perfect inside. And I'd rather just say we're all perfect and it feels really messy and it's okay.
This is Gold Ivy signing off.
Listen to your truth and go chase your gold. We want to thank you and encourage you to celebrate yourself for taking the time to learn and get inspired in your one beautiful life. And if this podcast means something to you, it would mean so much to us if you'd be willing to take 30 seconds to help support our mission to keep bringing you inspiring stories and guests.
First, following the podcast is important because it helps you never miss an episode. To do this, just go to the Ivy Unleashed podcast show page on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts. And then just tap the plus sign in the upper right-hand corner or click on follow.
While you're there, if you'd be so kind to give us a 5-star rating and review and share your favorite episode with a friend, we'd be so grateful for your support.
We are thrilled you're here and are so happy that you're taking time to prioritize your wellness, self-discovery, and growth with us. Additionally, we want to remind you that this podcast is presented solely for educational and entertainment purposes. We are not licensed therapists, and this podcast is not intended as a substitute for the advice of a physician, professional coach, psychotherapist, or other qualified professionals.